Hello, I'm Gene Nelson, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to PROMIS, the Patient-Reported Outcome Measurement Information System. PROMIS questionnaires were designed to measure health outcomes across all diseases, while also enabling the patient's voice to be validated and heard. PROMIS helps doctors to measure the impact of treatments on outcomes using patient-centered measures. We need your help to spread the word and to increase the inventory of outcome measures with the same precision and rigor that NIH demanded when the funding began over a decade ago. Thank you.
The integration and uptake of PROMIS is really a game changer in the world of healthcare. We are increasingly moving to understanding many different kinds of health data and integrating them in real time. And those include information about people's activity levels, information about their biology, information that we can collect both from them and passively, for example, information that gets collected on your iPhone all the time. What we have with PROMIS is the ability to, in a standardized way, assess information from patients about their health. The increased uptake across the world is going to allow us to do that in a way that is consistent, that is interpretable, that we can act on, and that is clear. And we are completely convinced at the NIH that supporting these kinds of measurement systems will really improve patient care in the long term.
So using the PROMIS instruments in clinical trials allows the use of those outcome measures to be comparable across diseases or across drugs being prepared. I recently sat with the drug companies in a meeting sponsored by Apple, and the drug companies pointed out that while in the past they were always developing new instruments for every single drug or formulary that they were creating, it would be much more useful for them if there were a standardized set of instruments that they could use. They want to prove that their drug works. They don't need to spend their time developing custom instruments for every individual drug that they're creating or putting into a clinical trial. So contributing to PROMIS health organizations is a win-win for both the PHO itself and for the pharmaceutical companies. The PHO is a nonprofit organization, and we simply are charged with distributing PROMIS instruments and keeping the metrics alive and well. For a pharmaceutical company to help get involved in that effort will ensure easy access to free instruments that can be used across trials, across diseases, across the world.
But PROMIS was a way of putting all those questions onto one metric and finally standardizing patient-reported outcome assessments, which would move the field forward. That was, in my opinion, the main barrier to having these measures used widely and the patient's voice being in the medical record. At some point, people have to buy into that standard. It won't work unless they do. And I see that happening more and more, and the mission of the PROMIS Health Organization helping to make that happen. And in that way, supporting the entry of the patient's voice into the medical record and into the evidence base that we use to evaluate healthcare and to make policy and clinical practice guidelines, things like that.
We're actually using PROMIS in our research actually after the clinical program. So we have developed a program across the Line Health System, which is 12 hospitals and 90 clinics, to use the PROMIS Global short form, PROMIS 10 as we call it, across the whole system. Oncology, neurology, radiology, integrative medicine, rehabilitation, as part of every visit. So we're trying to use it as a vital sign.
Well, the pharmaceutical industry has been seeking for the better part of the last 20 years how to achieve approval of their new therapies, of their new drugs and devices based upon outcomes that are meaningful to patients. There's been tremendous pressure from regulatory authorities and even from payers of healthcare for the pharmaceutical industry to prove that what they're putting out there in the market is of benefit to the sort of real lives of patients. And PROMIS measures help to accomplish that by creating these credible, valid, and precise measures of outcome.
There are many different avenues through which PROMIS is discussed and made available to the research community. The PROMIS Health Organization is a 501c3 that was developed by PROMIS investigators during the second wave of PROMIS funding from the NIH. That separate organization has been supporting several conferences. One is going to be held this October in conjunction with the International Society of Quality of Life Research meeting in Copenhagen. There are other workshops and educational opportunities that are also held in conjunction with PROMIS to help investigators with use and understanding its implications in their own research and practice. Over time, the National Institutes of Health has become more and more invested and has recognized the importance of patient-centered health and research that supports that health. We believe that the support of measurement systems such as PROMIS is really going to change the face of patient care because we're going to get that voice into the healthcare system in ways that are going to make a difference.
You've heard from leading experts about the benefits of PROMIS: valid, credible, precise, standardized, applicable to any condition, and free of charge. Now we would like to add your voice to this campaign. We need your support in moving forward to expand PROMIS by bringing global awareness to this innovative, game-changing outcomes measurement system. You're a leader in the healthcare industry, and it's because of your leadership that we invite you to be a proud sponsor of the PROMIS Health Organization. Thank you.